Hi, I'm Kimberly, a doctorally prepared nurse practitioner, and this is my first time doing Vlogmas. So I was gonna come back yesterday to talk to you about the Lahey Dermatology nurse practitioner training program. I did my whole setup, I sat down, and then the next thing I know, I was waking up. I was so tired. Me and my colleagues went to, we had spa day, and then we went out to dinner. And so actually that footage, I kind of set it up to go along with this, but that's going to take more editing. So I thought, let me do this first, and then later on today I'll post another video including some of the footage that I took. Hopefully it came out. And so yeah, this will just be about the Lahey Dermatology program. I was trying to also go live directly using the webcam, but I need to watch some more tutorials because even though I'm plugged into the computer, it wouldn't allow me to connect to the camera. So the camera has a feature to stream from there, and the computer lets me pick where I should stream from, but I have to figure that one out. So yeah, if you're just watching it, joining me for the first time, this is my first time doing Vlogmas, and through this experiment, I also purchased a camera for the first time because I think the last real camera I had, I was probably a kid, and it was probably it was probably a Polaroid, and I didn't even buy that, so I don't think I've ever brought a camera. So this is my first time with a real camera. So in each video, I kind of provide updates on my experience, so that's why I'm talking about that. Now, right now, I'm not crazy about the lighting. I am using the zoom feature, so I'm curious to see the quality in that once I show this. But I know the other day when I was talking in the kitchen, I talked about the yellow of the light, but fortunately, iMovie has a really simple feature that you can put on, and it kind of perfects the lighting. So I was really happy with that. I was happy with the background noise. I couldn't hear the heater in the background, but I could hear him chewing the ice, but only for certain parts of the video. And then, yeah, so I'm gonna see today how this pops, because I think it's kind of dim in here. So I'm eager to see how well it can kind of do some correct lighting. This, I need to put the link for this camera. Actually, if you're interested in knowing which camera this is, leave a message in the comments. And so, fortunately, I was able to interview the director, Victoria, earlier this year of the Lahey Dermatology Nurse Practitioner Training Program. If you're not familiar, it is the first and oldest training program dedicated to educating nurse practitioners practicing in dermatology. At this point, it's December 2023. The program has been in existence for 20 years. And the reason I'm bringing it up again is because they only allow new cohorts every 2 years. I believe every even year. And so they open it up between the very beginning of December to the very first week in February. And so it's open right now. I do have the link for my interview with her on the Mahogany Dermatology blog. That link is in the description box. And so there's a lot more details there than I'm gonna provide here. This is kind of just like an overview, just to give you an idea about it. And if you're interested, you can certainly check out the article. And so Victoria was a participant in the program, and at that time it used to be 1 year. Since then it has become 2 years. The program was initially started just to increase the number of dermatology nurse practitioners. So even though it's based in Burlington, Massachusetts, which happens to be, that part of the country happens to be a very densely populated area when it comes to dermatology providers. And so the goal isn't just to create more providers in the Northeast region. It's really to increase providers everywhere, with special emphasis, of course. We want to provide more providers in those provider shortage areas for people who are interested and willing to live and practice in those areas. That was one mission of it. And the other mission, I went over my article before this in hopes that I could, it's a pretty long article. I tried to get as much detail as possible for you all, thinking of all the questions you might be interested in. And as I continue to do these type of interviews, it'll give you an opportunity to kind of make that comparison. Someone who has invested a lot of money into education, all these opportunities for postgraduate education, especially in dermatology, you know, if you're not going to get on the job training, you're probably coming out of your pocket for it. And so I'm sure we're all curious as to what we're going to get on our investment. And so I just think these interviews give us a little bit more than sometimes is provided on a website. And so, you know, that's one of the reasons we're doing that. And I think I've mentioned before that I was inspired to do these interviews by Dr. Antonio Webb. He is an orthopedic spine surgeon in San Antonio, Texas, and he did a similar interview at with a medical school admissions representative, and I just really thought it was really helpful information, and I thought it was wonderful on behalf of the university that they would even sit down and talk to him and share that information with everyone. And so that's what I'm doing. Whenever I send the invitation out, I always make it available to be either or article or published on YouTube. Now that my YouTube is kind of getting established and I have actually a quality camera, I might push that a little bit more. If that's something you all are interested in, let me know. But yeah, I think we'll go in that direction moving forward. Maybe a combination of both. So, as some people don't watch YouTube. And also, I think when people Google, I think it will just increase the opportunity for people to find that kind of information. So yeah, in addition to increasing the number of nurse practitioners qualified to practice in dermatology, the program is also designed to make sure that everyone who completes the program is eligible to sit for the dermatology nurse practitioner certification exam. There are particular criteria that must be met before you can take that exam, and that includes practicing in dermatology 3,000 hours. And I'm pretty sure it has to be medical derm. I do see a lot of people asking that question online about what actually can be counted towards those hours. I believe it's medical derm. That's probably something I should look into. So let me look into that more. Yeah, I think actually that's a good question. So those are the two missions. It was started by a nurse practitioner and a Mohs surgeon. That Mohs surgeon is Suzanne. I don't want to mess up her last name, so I'm just going to call her Dr. Suzanne. She is a she has a very extensive credentials, but one of those is she is one of the former presidents of the American Academy of Dermatology. And then that nurse practitioner, Mary Nolan, joined forces with Dr. Margaret Bobanich, who is a pioneer when it comes to education for dermatology nurse practitioners, and together they developed the competencies, to name a few things. Dr. Bobanich also wrote one of my favorite books that I recommend in dermatology for nurse practitioners in particular, is the I don't want to butcher that name either. But what I do have is I actually created, so I'm an Amazon associate, and so I have the Mahogany Dermatology Favorites Amazon products. I created a storefront for that, and that link is in the description box. There's a page there called Dermatology MPs, and you can find all my favorite books there. I own every single one of those books. My latest edition is Andrew's. The only one that I don't own is the newest one that has come out on the market. I believe this is the newest one. I don't know if anybody else has released a book since the summer, because this one came out in the summer. Dr. Taylor's newest book. But all these other ones I own, digital or hard copy. I think these are all great references, and you're gonna see these anytime you ask someone to recommend a book. You're gonna see these books on there. It's called Dermatology for Advanced Practice Clinicians. Love that book. I love that it was written by MPs, and so that's one of my favorites. I just like the how they get kind of right to the point. They focus on things that we really need to be attentive to, and it covers every area in dermatology. That's why they started the program. They created the competencies, which I've talked about before. Those competencies you can find on just by Googling, but also you can visit the Dermatology Nurses Association website. Those are listed. And I believe in the other video, I said you had to purchase those. So you don't have to purchase the list of competencies, but you do have to purchase the scopes and standards. And I do plan to buy that because I want to see what's in it. So yeah. And I don't know if that can count towards, if you can use your CE money for that. I would imagine you could. And I would, actually now that I'm talking out, yeah, well, I have some ideas about that. So yeah, you can go on the DNA website if you haven't been. It's a great place to start if you're interested in getting into derm. I know a lot of people ask, you know, what can they do? And I think that's a great place to start, actually. And so currently that book, they have the Dermatology Scopes and Standards 2020. If you're a member, and you should be, it's $25, but if not, it's $50. And you'll get a hard copy mailed to you. So the experience. So as far as admission goes, you don't have to have any derm experience, but they do recommend that you have at least primary care or internal medicine. I don't know if urgent care would qualify, but probably, because, you know, derm is heavily based in medicine, and so having that experience would be extremely helpful for you. And then you'll get all the derm experience throughout the program. Victoria, she didn't have any derm experience before she did it. And like I said, she was in the program, and now she's the director. So you do get a stipend. Now that it's 2 years, the first year you get $50,000, and the second year you get $80,000. Victoria did share that she's working on increasing that to just be better reflective of kind of like cost of living. And so you have to kind of take that into consideration compared to other training programs, but also think about what you're getting throughout your time at Lahey in exchange for that stipend that isn't necessarily going to be what you're going to get if you're actually practicing full-time. So there's that. I always ask about access to decision support tools, and so you do get access to Visual DX throughout the program, but it's mostly for education, not to be used at point of care. And then the hospital uses Epic. Nurse practitioners in Massachusetts can practice independently, but I did find it interesting that she said they still have like a supervising physician. However, orders are always written that support complete autonomy of the nurse practitioner. So there is that. So typically your schedule is booked for the week, so it doesn't really allow itself for you to work, and so that's why they offer the stipend. There's a combination of lectures. You have to participate, you have to attend grand rounds. She said and you do see patients, and you get your time changed over the course of while you're there to like 30 minutes at a time, where you get to spend with each patient. She said a lot of time is given, or so the fellows get opportunity to, they get time so that they can invest in research, because they have to do these presentations quite frequently. You start in your first year, then the second year you build on those presentations as your knowledge and education advances as well. And so you do have to do quite a few presentations. You do have to write for publication, and actually they encourage people to, or they encourage the fellows to write for the Journal of Dermatology Nurses Association, which I think I've talked about before in a previous video. And she encourages people to start with the case study, which I think I have mentioned before too. And so yeah, if you're interested and you're curious, I think all of us can find an interesting case study. And even if it's not that interesting, it could just be a great way for you to get used to doing presentations. So yeah, Monday, Wednesday, Thursdays, and Fridays are half a day, and the fellows are in the clinic with a preceptor. Tuesdays are filled with those lectures, grand rounds, and time to conduct your research. I ask about, so then some of the things you're gonna see in the article are just other questions I ask about that I have learned about as I have gotten into derm and kind of learned more about the practice and the expectations. So one thing I always ask about dermoscopy, and so you will use that on every single patient, which is nice. And then they have a dermatopathologist affiliated with Mass General, and he volunteers his time to like answer questions and help to train the fellows. You get lectures on billing and coding, as well as modifiers. I have some food being delivered, so the puppy might bark, just to give you a heads up. They don't do a formal lecture on negotiations, but Victoria will provide talking points. And then, oh, but during our interview, she mentioned that, you know, once I brought it up, that she thought it's actually a really good topic, and so she's considering adding that to one of the lectures. Teledermatology is available, as well as AI as needed on the patient. You know what? I don't want to mess this up, so let me just pause this after he makes his delivery. Okay, I'm glad I did that because he definitely was barking. So in addition to exposure to the dermatopathologist, you also get exposure to, they have a full body photography program that's run primarily by another nurse practitioner. And at the time, there was a dermatologist who was supposed to be joining based on patient demand. So now it's been about 6 months since I did that interview, so they might be there. Talked about that. Oh, so I always ask about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so with those presentations that the fellows have to do, it is a requirement that regardless of the topic that they're presenting, that they have to provide pictures and also talk on the matter of presentations in diverse skin tones. They're encouraged to attend the Skin of Color Society lectures, and then they also have the opportunity to attend lectures with the residents, with the Harvard residents, and that department has been increasing the number of DEI lectures that they've been making available. There is a Skin of Color clinic run by 2 Skin of Color providers, and of course there's a lot of emphasis on skin of color dermatoses that present to the clinic. I asked her about the future. They do have their Lahey Hospital and Medical Center's Hair Loss Center of Excellence, which Victoria helps run with another MP. And they've been getting, so the fellows get a lot of exposure to hair loss, and they're completely competent to treat it at the time of completion of the program. Oh, now that's the postman. Hold on. Okay, busy time of day to be filming. Let's see. Oh, so, you know, as far as I asked her about the future, and so as you may or may not know, adults age 65 and older are the fastest growing age bracket, and they're expected to be the majority by around 2040 or so. And so because of that, she expects there to be a lot more skin checks in dermatology. And it was interesting that because there has been a growing number of information available on social media and online when it comes to derm and even especially cosmetic dermatology, that they've been seeing an increasing trend in patients having very specific expectations. And so we chatted a little bit about that, and I'll let you see how she responded to that when you read the article. Yeah, and then I just close it out talking about what inspired me to do this, in addition to Dr. Antonio Webb, what inspired this whole series. And so yeah, this is the first of hopefully many. I have a new one that will be coming out today, actually. So yeah, you can go and check that out. I'll probably make the official announcement on Monday, which is when I like to do announcements for kind of my big articles. It's, you know, Mahogany Dermatology Monday. So let's see. I won't really know how long this one is because I started and stopped it so many times. But yeah, I'll come back later today and I'll upload the video content from our holiday gathering yesterday and talk about my experience getting my first Thai massage. So thank you so much for your patience and your understanding. You know, ever since I got into like creating content, certainly over just like when I became a travel nurse, such a huge greater appreciation for people who do this all the time, because people who do something with excellence really make it look much easier than it is. And actually, before I close out, I follow this one lady who really talks a lot about just like freedom and kind of taking advantage of what you already have and using it to help you live the life of your dreams. And so she was talking about, she has a lot of coaching, and she gets a lot of really highly accomplished professionals that participate in her programs. And she says almost every time she can guarantee who's not gonna succeed, right? And so she does a YouTube coaching program, which actually I'm thinking about doing. I've thought about it a few times, and now that I'm kind of set up here, I'm really thinking about doing it, because it's my belief that, when you think about all the things you're supposed to do in a day's time and what you're supposed to dedicate to, like your spiritual life, physical fitness, eating healthy, learning a clinical skill and specialty, running a business, maintaining healthy relationships, caring for your pets and your children, like making investments, being kind. It's like your time is so limited, especially when you have such a huge learning curve to overcome. And so I just think if I want to get to the next level, I need help, right? And when I think about how long it takes to really learn something, I don't have that kind of time, and to want to also get things done in a certain period of time. So like if it takes, say, 10 years to become really proficient at investing, I don't want to spend 10 years learning when I know that I can have someone who's been doing it for 10 years or more help me right now, right? That kind of thinking. And so I'm thinking about doing her program, and then that would be some content that I could share as well. But anyway, so she had, so this is her theory, or it's not really a theory, it's based on her experience, that people who have been really successful, people expect you to continue to always be excellent. Let's say for instance, you get your doctorate. And even in this case, she was talking about a judge. You've proven excellence. And so no matter what you do, people expect you to maintain that level of excellence, even if it's your first time doing it. There's like a misconception that, when you do something for the first time, if it's your first time, you're going to make mistakes. You don't know everything. You have to overcome that learning curve. But even if you understand that yourself, the people around us tend to still hold us to that standard. And if we internalize that, then we can hold ourselves to that standard. But what that ends up doing for a lot of people, as she was explaining, is it actually causes analysis paralysis, and they never move forward because of that fear of failure. And so I actually relate to that a lot, because when I would decide to go back to grad school in the very beginning, after I got my first degree in biology, and since I didn't have like amazing grades, I was like, and I went to grad school, it was kind of a test. It's like, am I going to do well here? Have I come up with a strategy to help me be successful? Or is this like a new direction that I'm taking? And so I was accepting the fact that, there's a huge chance that I could continue to fail until I figure it out. And while I was okay with that, I didn't want to stay home where people were going to constantly be asking about that. And even, let's say you try something, it doesn't work out and you fail, then they might start giving you all this advice on what you should do instead of continuing to stay on that path. If it's a wise decision to stay on that path, especially if you're making progress, and you might not be making progress in every area, because not all success is linear, but you still might be making progress that's helping you become stronger so you can be successful in all those areas. And so I knew I was going to make mistakes, right? I think a lot of times we know our limitations as well as our potential, but you can get caught up in what other people think. And so I didn't want to do that. And so not only in addition to just wanting to have my own experience in Boston, I also wanted to remove myself from that, because it's like I was comfortable. If it took me 10 years to figure it out, I was okay with that time. But I know not everyone thinks like that. And so I just didn't want to have those outside influences kind of deter me, or even just introduce like undue stress. So somebody might need to hear that. And I really appreciated her saying that, because fear is very real. Getting on here, sharing things that don't go well, if you say you're going to do this, if you're going to do that, or people just see you here on social media, they think you're really nice, you make a lot of videos, great content, but that doesn't mean that you can't make mistakes, or that some people don't like the way you say something, or that everything's gonna go well just because you want to try it or do it. And so I think especially those of us in clinical practice face that a lot. I know, like, I have one of my mentees, she just finished her second semester in nursing school, and you know, it's been interesting kind of going through that journey again through her eyes, because I know a lot of my classmates when I was in nursing school, you know, to get to nursing school, you have to have a certain GPA. And so they had reached a certain level of excellence and expected that to continue. And when they got to nursing school and was faced with kind of a new challenge and way of thinking, didn't always get the grade that they were expecting. And so for some people it was too much, and, you know, they left the program. And for the people, you know, they really struggled but then overcame, and so that reminds me of that as well, kind of realizing like success can look different in many ways, but it doesn't mean you're not still primely positioned. So you know, a learning curve is a learning curve, and so is a journey. And I'm happy to say in her case in particular that she ended up doing really well this semester. And so, yeah, if you're looking for anyone to mentor, I always have people. Right now I'm looking, I don't think I mentioned on here yet, I have a PA, a prospective PA student who's looking for someone to mentor as well as someone to shadow. She didn't have any particular specialty. She didn't list a few specialties, but she's open to anything in this DMV area. So if you're listening to this and you know someone, or you know someone who you can recommend, just you can message me and let me know. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.